Hello, my name is Jessica Tyser, and I'm doing my informative speech over Margaret Fuller. Sarah Margaret Fuller was born in an area of Cambridge, Massachusetts. She was given a substantial early education by her father, Timothy Fuller. She later had a more formal schooling and became a teacher. She became the first editor of the transcendental publication The Dial in 1840 before joining the staff of the New York Tribune in 1844. By the time she was in her 30s, Fuller had earned a reputation as the best-read person in New England, male or female, and she became the first woman allowed to use the library at Harvard College. She was sent to Europe for the Tribune as its first female correspondent. She died off Fire Island, New York, traveling back to the United States in 1850. Her body was never recovered. Margaret Fuller was a journalist, a critic, and a women's rights activist associated with the American Transcendental Movement. She paved the way for the women of today, improved lives, and inspired respect during her lifetime. Fuller was a proponent of feminism and reform at all levels of society. Fuller also was a believer in transcendentalism, although she was never comfortable being labeled a transcendentalist. Fuller was an advocate of women's rights, and in particular, women's education and rights to employment. She felt that once equal education rights were afforded to women, women could push for equal political rights as well. She advocated that women should seek any employment they wish, rather than catering to the stereotypical feminine roles of the time, such as teaching. "If you ask me what office women should fill, I reply, any. Let them be sea captains, if you will. I do not doubt that there are women well fitted for such an office." She believed that women could do anything. Fuller also warned women to be careful about marriage and not to become dependent upon their husbands. In fact, by 1832, she had made a personal commitment to stay single. Fuller also questioned the definitive line between male and female. There is no wholly masculine male, no purely feminine, but that both were present in any individual. There were two parts, the intellectual side, or the Minerva, and the lyrical or formality side, the Muse. Fuller advocated reform at all levels of society. She was a believer in prison reforms. In October 1844, she visited Sing Sing, interviewed the women prisoners, and stayed overnight in the facility. Sing Sing was then developing a more humane system for its women inmates, many of whom were prostitutes. Fuller was concerned about the homeless and those living in dire poverty, especially in New York. She was also raised to believe that the Indian obstinately refused to be civilized. However, her travels in the American West made her realize that the white man unfairly treated the Native Americans, and she considered the Native Americans an important part of American heritage. She supported the rights and emancipation of African Americans. She referred to slavery as a cancer taking over the United States. She suggested that those who were interested in the abolition movement should follow the same reasoning when considering the rights of women. As a friend of the Negro assumes that one man cannot by right hold another in bondage, so should the friend of women assume that man cannot by right lay even well-meant restrictions on women. Fuller agreed with the transcendental concern for the psychological well-being of the individual, though she was never comfortable being labeled a transcendentalist herself. She criticized others for focusing too much on individual improvement and not enough on social reform. Like others of the members of the Transcendental Club, she rebelled against the past and believed in the possibility of change for the future. However, unlike others in the movement, her rebellion was not based on her religious beliefs, but rather on her everyday beliefs. According to Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton in their 1881 History of a Woman's Suffrage, Margaret Fuller possessed more influence on the thought of American women than any woman previous to her time. Any woman can identify with and look up to Margaret Fuller for all she has done. She was well respected in literary circles as a journalist at a time when women were looked down on. She advocated women's rights, and in particular, women's education and the right to employment. Fuller also encouraged many other reforms in our society, including prison reform, the emancipation of slaves in the United States. The work she did is seen every day throughout the United States.